I don't think we can hear you, Steve. Can you hear us?
Let's try testing 1, 2, 3. We're good. I was just say that was a great lead-in. Appreciate the warm-up music, and thanks to our team here, Andre and Heather behind the scenes for helping bring this together. I'll do some quick intros. I'm Steve Marcinuk, General Manager and co-founder here at Intelligent Relations.
And I'm Carolina Calkins, and I'm a principal here at Intelligent Relations.
Cool. So today we are going to share with you AI's role in understanding journalists from the perspective that we here at Intelligent Relations have been working for the last 3 years to build some really powerful artificial intelligence tools to support communications professionals in managing relationships with journalists. And so we have a privileged position to be sharing some of the things that we've been building and also have a pretty good understanding of the landscape more broadly. So we're going to also share a couple of other tools that you can use to achieve these kinds of outcomes. So with that in mind, a little bit of background here about who we are and where we're from. So as mentioned, founded back in 2020, designed from day one with artificial intelligence at the core. We have a team of about 60 people around the world in 15 different countries. Some folks are PR pros, some folks are on the technology side, the reporting side, but that's kind of the background that we bring to the table here. We have a focus on many of our clients are in the B2B niche technology space, but increasingly we have clients in a wide number of niche industries. And the platform that we built is called Preston, PR Press Presto. That is the platform that we use in-house and are making available for folks who want to use it to do better outreach and journalist relationship management. So with that in mind, Carol, you want to share a little bit about the background, why these relationships matter in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks everyone for joining. I see people coming in from Lisbon, from other parts of the world. It's very exciting to have you all here today. Thanks for joining. So, let's start by talking about the importance of media relationships. The core of our jobs as PR professionals is to enable meaningful relationships with reporters on behalf of our clients or even for our own practice. So, the value of this interpersonal relationships is not always easy to quantify. They take time, they take effort, and may not have an immediate return over investment, but they do pay off, and they pay off in many different ways. And although building strong relationships with the media does not guarantee coverage, and this is very important for me to say up front, you do have a better choice, a better chance at being heard. And if done correctly, both the reporter and you, or the company that you represent, will benefit from this relationship. So, what does it mean to do it correctly? And Steve, if you help me with the next slide, awesome. So, relationship building has changed over time. Just to provide a little bit of context, the PR industry is exploding. There are 6 PR professionals for every journalist, and the numbers just keep growing due to many different factors like uncertainty in the industry, low salaries, less opportunities for reporters, and this environment has also brought fast and sudden career moves for reporters. And it's hard for us, PR pros, to keep up if we're not actively monitoring. In addition to this, the news cycle moves faster and faster. Actually, 69% of journalists say they prefer pitches that connect to trending stories rather than those what we call evergreen pitches. And also, most journalists say that pitches will be rejected if they aren't personalized or they come at a bad timing. To support this, 92% of journalists prefer one-to-one email pitches. So there you have the importance of media relationships. And finally, yes, having sources is important, but quality is even more important now than ever to reporters. So, with this in mind, I'm going to share with you 3 key strategies to remember when building strong relationships with reporters. And this is before we come to the tech side. So, number 1, add value, become an ally. So how do you do that? Provide journalists with valuable insights and commentary that look at the bigger picture. Don't just focus on information about your company. Your stats are valuable, yes, but you need to frame them into the bigger picture. An important element of becoming an ally is to be responsive. Be mindful of tight timelines. Be honest. And if you don't have anything to offer, maybe you can add value by trying to connect them or introduce them to someone else who might have something to say. That's number one. Number two, don't spam. So if you understand their beat, their style, you follow their work, you know the type of stories that they're interested in and the format they conduct interviews in or how they request commentary, then you're less likely to spam. Sometimes a single pitch that introduces your spokesperson and the topics that a person could potentially comment on is more helpful than creating a whole story from scratch. As you probably are aware, many journalists are putting 2 to 4 or even more stories out per week. And not all of them can come from pitches because they also have editorial calendars, they have editorial assignments, they have breaking news. So becoming a trusted source is key. And eventually they'll call you for commentary. You don't have to chase them. And number three, and the most important one, it is not your job to promote, it is not their job to promote your product. Even if you are best friends with the reporter, if you're just promoting your product, your brand, your service over and over again, you will be sent to the sales department for pay to play coverage. So your story needs to be newsworthy, or what I like to call it, mediagenic. Remember, they cover news, they don't write ads. And if you want guaranteed placement, then you pay for advertising. All right. So this is a good intro on media relationships, but how can we get technology to help?
Yeah,
Technology,
so
yeah. Oh,
to
sorry.
start, we'll start there and we'll go back and forth a little bit in these next pieces. So I think just to frame this a little bit, when we first started talking about using artificial intelligence to enhance public relations, we were met with a fair amount of skepticism. There were a lot of folks who were saying you're taking the relationships out of public relations, that shouldn't work, you shouldn't be automating, etc. We want to be clear about a couple of things as we dive into even considering using technology for public relations. First of all, from where we're sitting and from all the work we've done, it's very clear AI will not replace PR pros, but it can make these relationship building strategies more efficient. The idea for AI is not to replace, not to automate, but to assist, to accelerate those types of things. We'll go into a couple of specific strategies for how that is being done. Secondly, we're seeing it's already happening. Technology is being used by public relations professionals, by marketing professionals, by people in your company, in your industry right now. Even if you're not explicitly going to a tool to like ChatGPT to use it for content creation, guarantee that some of the tools that you're using right now to do your day-to-day work have artificial intelligence built in some way. Super simple example. If you're writing an email in Google and Gmail and you write, I hope you're having a great, then it suggests day. Hope you're having a great day. That's AI. That's generative AI. That is anticipating the next language. There's countless examples of how AI is already being used by tools that are in your toolbox as you speak. Then lastly, there's plenty of resources to suggest that people who are using artificial intelligence right now are becoming more productive. They're enhancing their workflow. They're supporting people. They're able to do their job in a more effective way. You know, I was just in a webinar the other day where someone framed, you either have the opportunity to be a leader or you're going to become a follower. This is the future. This is the technology that's coming out. This is an opportunity for you to still, even though we're almost about a year out from ChatGPT, for example, being launched, there's still time to be considered an innovator, a leader in this space. So with that framing, I think I could go into some specific tactics. Kara, anything to
If
add
I,
before
if
we go
I
next?
if I may, Steve, yeah, I have one more stat for you, and that's that 94% of business leaders think that that AI will be important for business success in the next 5 years. And this is also true for PR professionals or leaders who are using PR as a big part of their business strategy. So that's that.
Yep, sounds good. Cool. Swapped out deck. Let's keep going. So Let's go into day-to-day activities, what's required for PR pros to do their job, and some of the ways that artificial intelligence is helping to build those better journalist relationships. So first aspect, we talk about reaching out to journalists. The question is, who are you going to reach out to? You have a great story, you have an angle, you want to promote it. How do you find who to reach out to? So the first part is we call list building. So building the right list of journalists to reach out to. Artificial intelligence is already happening in a few ways. So first of all, there's a number of tools out there. Professional tools that have been around for a while, newer entrants like ourselves, like PR Profit, that are allowing AI to support in list building. So they work in different ways. Some of the tools are taking your pitch and then analyzing the keywords in it and then running a query. It looks like this is about technology. Let's query our journalist database for technology journalists and go like that. And other approaches are a little bit more advanced. So in intelligent relations, what we're doing is we're actually mapping pitches and journalists on about 1,500 different dimensions using process of vectorization to create really deep connections based on what journalists have covered in the past versus what you're recommending they write about. And based on that, you're able to come up with the journalists who are most likely to cover the story that you're proposing to them. But this process of recommending journalists, of jumping in, of being able to help jumpstart that process of list building, that's a great way to save time. Again, still got to check, still need the human expertise in there, but it can help to speed up that process. That's one way. And you can build better relationships because you know who's likely to care. Beyond that, once you have lists of journalists and once you know who you want to pitch, sometimes you know because of your relationships, because of your history, you know 5 or 6 journalists who would be a great fit for this story, but there's got to be other folks who write similar stories or who might like to care. Or for example, you just saw a news story that came out written by one journalist. How can we quickly jump on top of that story and find other journalists who are likely to cover that? Well, this gets into the process of finding similar journalists and similar publications. So with AI-powered analysis, you can analyze who are the journalists who are similar to journalists in your database. Again, in intelligent relations, we're using some rather advanced technology to map journalist coverage and find journalists who have written very similar stories to do matching in that way. But again, other tools are using things such as similar beats, technology, finance, etc., and they can do kind of a pseudo lookalike process in that way as well. So amplifying your existing audience from maybe 4 or 5 to a bigger audience, great way to get started. Lastly, this is something that on our end looks very promising and something that we're investing in quite heavily, is essentially a process of recursive learning over time. So we've seen this get better we've seen this kind of process in a very different application for something like Spotify or Netflix or Amazon. The more you engage with these tools, the smarter they get about what you like, what you don't like. Using a similar kind of a process, we're actually able to recommend journalists that are good for your brand, for your company, based on those that you as a PR pro or you as a brand give positive feedback to. So as you engage and you say, this is a good journalist for me, this is not a good journalist, the platform is able to learn over time and give smarter recommendations for who you should be pitching rather than having to start from scratch every time. So again, all of these tools that we just mentioned, these are things that we're doing. Some other professional tools are out there, but also want to make sure if you're not a subscriber, if you're not using paid tools, want to make sure we're giving you some value that you can go off and use on your own as well. So free hack. We've actually used this in some of our outreach campaigns, using even ChatGPT or Bard, one of these chatbot tools, pre-trained out of the box, not specific for PR. You're actually able to use these to get some recommendations for the types of journalists who would be interested in a story. So we've done this in the past, take a pitch and say, maybe not what journalists are the best fit for this, but what publications might be interested in covering this story. You have to keep in mind that these are not PR tools explicitly, so they don't have contact information and they're not up to date. Bard is last updated in 2022. ChatGPT, but they're able to, at least in terms of publications, give you a pretty good jumping off point. And you can even say for lookalike, what are some other publications like this one that might be interested in this story? So even if you're not paying for tools, using the out-of-the-box ones can be a help to use AI to accelerate your workflows and build those better relationships. Beyond this, AI is allowing us to do better understanding of journalists as well. So list building makes it sound rather clinical, putting people on a list, but in order to really understand and build better journalist relationships, which is key to the PR process, you really can benefit from having deeper insights into the journalists that you're pitching. So, for example, AI is allowing you to cut through the clutter in the noise of looking through a journalist database, for example, and identifying journalists who, in summarizing the information that's most relevant. So typically, when you're trying to research a journalist, of course, you want to understand their coverage. Of course, you want to read some of their pieces, know their bio, everything like that. But sometimes it's hard to understand the big picture of what does this journalist care about. So AI tools, the same way you might have used it to summarize a call transcript or summarize an article, something like that, by feeding in a lot of information into an AI tool, like what we have at Intelligent Relations, we're able to give a quick executive summary that gives you the right information you need to make better decisions and make sure the journalist you want to pitch is actually a good fit for what you're trying to accomplish. Beyond that, there's other tools that can help you get more analytical data on journalists to make sure that what you're reaching out to them about is the right fit. So on one hand, that can mean taking the long view of what that journalist has covered. So let's analyze this journalist's historical coverage over the last 3 to 6 months to understand the big themes that are emerging over time. But also AI is able to move quicker than humans in most use cases. So you can pick up on emerging trends. So if someone is covering international politics, those are stories that evolve very, very quickly. As Caro said, it's hard to keep up with who's covering what in what location. AI can both take that long view and also do that up to the minute analysis to understand what are the most recent things that these people care about, that these journalists are writing about, the editors are focused on, so that you're not pitching them last week's news, you're pitching them something that's appropriate to where they're at and where they're focused right now. And then lastly, this is an area that we're very excited about in intelligent relations, is that because artificial intelligence technology keeps getting better and better, and we're able to build more and more powerful models, we're actually able to do analysis of things that previously would have been inconceivable to do. So for example, this is a screenshot of our attribute tagger. We have over 50 million articles in the database. We're bringing in another 6 million articles on a monthly basis. Soon going to be significantly more than that. We're actually able to analyze each of those articles using custom trained models to understand not just is this about technology or finance, but is this a gift guide? Does this include an interview with a CEO? Is this an announcement, a review, et cetera, et cetera? Some of you who may work in the PR space or have thought about doing PR outreach in the past, you might be thinking to yourself, I want someone to review my app, or we have an announcement, we want people to cover that. Well, the secret in PR is that if you're pitching someone, hey, can you review my product, and they've never done a product review, probably not a good fit. They cover technology, they cover gadgets. It seems like it'd be a fit, but if the attributes, if what you're asking of them isn't what they do, you're going to miss the mark, you're going to burn bridges, and you're not going to be building better journalist relationships. So that's another way in which AI is helping. And for a free hack for this area as well, again, some out-of-the-box tools can help you to do this. The tool that we would recommend for this is actually Bing. Bing's chat is a really good tool because unlike ChatGPT, Bing is connected to the internet and is able to do real-time queries. So similarly to what we showed about journalist summaries, et cetera, you can go to Bing Chat as a search engine, and you can say, hey, what is so-and-so writing about these days? And it will actually go out and query and help you to do summaries of what that journalist is writing about, so you can kind of get a quick snapshot more easily, and you can have a better sense of what that journalist is writing about as well. not customized for the PR use case, always a risk of hallucinations, etc. They might get the name wrong or might not know who you're talking about. But these kinds of tools, right out of the box, no need to pay, can really help you with that kind of process as well. And lastly, let's talk about better relationship management. Again, a relationship is not just a transactional, hey, can you cover my client? Hey, can you cover this story? And then we'll talk to you the next time we need something. Not really a relationship, that's pretty transactional. Let's talk about how you can use artificial intelligence to actually build relationships over time. So, first of all, you need to have some way of tracking and reporting on who you've been in touch with. As Caro mentioned, people are moving around really quickly. Their beats are changing. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of content creators and writers and editors and journalists out there. So you need to have a smart way to keep track of who you've been in touch with. So having tools like what we built at Intelligent Relations that allow you to keep track of your interactions, categorize replies. Was this a positive interaction, a neutral interaction? Was this a request for sponsorship? That type of thing. Having tools that can keep up with your speed are really powerful in helping to build relationships. Anyone who's ever worked in public relations can know we got to move quickly. News moves fast. We have to pitch. And sometimes it's hard to find tools that can keep up to your speed. Artificial intelligence can actually help to make that possible. So your tools can move as quickly as you can. Beyond that, assisting with smarter recommendations. This is something we're really keen on as well. We call them safety rails in-house, but as you can see in the screenshot here, you can use artificial intelligence in the right way to give like safety rails, tags, assistance before you reach out to journalists. So you can see here on the right-hand side, you can see journalists who you've contacted recently. So before you pitch this person, check your last pitch that you sent to this person and see how long ago that was. Make sure you're not pitching something too similar. You can see also other tags for things like local coverage. So this journalist is, they cover Philadelphia tech companies rather than tech companies more broadly. So if you're going to pitch them, make sure you have that local angle, or else probably save them for the next time you have a Philly angle. And then lastly, interactions history as well. So it is something like you've had positive interactions, negative interactions. They covered you, they covered a competitor. You want to have that information on hand so that you're building better relationships with journalists. This has been used in sales CRMs for a long time, basically sales enablement tools that give you all the information at your fingertips when you're trying to do some kind of a sales deal. But traditionally, the PR industry is lagged behind in some of these areas. All we're trying to do here is give you, who's building the relationship, who's out on the front of the process, giving the tools that you can do the work you need to do and make smarter decisions as the professional. Lastly, in terms of a free hack here as well, you might find that a lot of CRMs are getting smarter. Even tools, if you're not using a dedicated CRM for your public relations outreach, maybe you're using something like HubSpot or any other number of tools. A lot of companies are trying to find smarter ways to build their products better. And so, for example, we use HubSpot for different activities, not our PR outreach, but for other activities. And we find that they actually have built in some other tools there that are enhancing workflows, from content creation to lead identification to knowledge sharing, those types of things. So I would say the free hack here is maybe you're using a tool, maybe it's a free tool, maybe it's a paid tool, but explore the artificial intelligence that's already being used in the tools that are that you're already paying for or have access to. So hopefully that's a bit of a deep dive. Happy to go into more detail on any one of these themes or others, how AI can help you to build better relationships, but we'll probably wrap it up with a couple of closing thoughts on how to use an AI and how not to use AI in this journalist relationship building process. Carol, you want me to do it? You want to take this one?
I'll take this one. I'll take this one
Yeah.
because it's also answering one of the questions that we have in the chat. And it says, how will all this AI info on journalists actually help me pitch better? So, what we can tell you, these are our do's and don'ts of how to use AI in PR. So, number one, do use AI to assist in PR, including matching your stories with the right reporter. Do use AI to write draft versions of content such as press releases, pitches, and bylines. Not the final version, but at least spark that idea. And then use AI for ideation or creative activities. What we use it a lot for is brainstorming potential newsworthy angles when there's nothing really that we can jump on in the news. And then for don'ts, don't use AI to automate PR. That's not a good practice. And reporters, you will not build a good relationship with reporters if you just automate your PR efforts. Don't use AI to write final versions of content. And most importantly, and this addresses another one of the questions in the chat, don't rely on AI for research or factual accuracy. We as PR pros have to make sure that we do our research, that we do our due diligence, and that the information that we're conveying to the reporter is factually accurate. So that goes beyond all of the AI tools that are in the market right now, and you need to do your research in the traditional way. That I think covers it. Steve, we have some questions here. See if you want to answer. So we got one question that says, what tools do journalists currently rely on to detect whether a press release, thought leadership article, or news story you're pitching them is primarily written by AI? Wow, that's a long
Yeah.
question. It covers my whole face, but that's the gist of it.
Line intuition. Cool. So this is a great question, and there's a lot. It's a growing field of AI content detection. Uh, let's kind of break this down in a couple ways. So first of all, I'd say there's a question of how people react to AI written content, and the culture of AI content is still very much being written. We are still, the question of whether or not people mind a lot about something, about an ad or a social media post, for example, having AI as part of the ingredients, so to speak. We're still, as a society, figuring out how we feel about that. My personal opinion is that eventually we're going to have more transparency into the process, where it almost becomes like nutrition labels, and the content you're consuming may contain artificial intelligence generated language. Some kind of transparency is almost certainly coming, which brings us to the second part of the question: what are some of those tools? So we're in a little bit of an arms race here, where we've seen this traditionally. Almost like uh, think of it like hackers and cybersecurity professionals, but a lot more benign. So there's a race between hackers trying to use technology to do negative things, and then security companies trying to keep up with the tools that are being used and finding better ways to detect and identify threats before they happen. That's in a very negative and a harmful way. But if you think about it, we're talking about here in a much more positive light. We're talking about content creation and content detection. AI tools are going to continue to get smarter and smarter, generate better and better and more realistic human style content. And there are going to be tools that are checking for AI. Mostly we're seeing in like the academic front. A lot of schools wouldn't want you to submit your term paper that was written entirely by AI, because that's kind of cheating the work. But there's a number of tools. One of them I believe is called Winston AI. That's one we've used. There's a couple of others out there. I'd have to do a quick Google search. They're hit and miss. I'm sure they'll continue to get better, but the same way that models are trained on content, on human content, to help write better AI content, these models are trained on AI content to help detect AI content. So it really is kind of both things are going to get better over time. And I think that kind of bringing it home to the end is, how do journalists know if content was written entirely by AI or not? You know, I I would recommend a slightly different approach. Uh, you as a marketing or PR pro are putting out content into the world that represents your thoughts, accuracy, perspective, strategy. You're putting your name, your company's name to the content you're putting out. Whether it was written by the intern, whether it was drafted by AI, or you wrote it 100% yourself, if you're putting your name to it, you need to be able to stand behind it. So your job in using AI tools really should be to create an output that you're proud of, that represents your company well, etc. And our perspective is that if you use an AI tool to help get to that end product that you're proud of, that's kind of okay, as long as you're saying that it represents a great quality output that you're proud of. Kara, I'm not sure how that maps to your thinking, but Yeah,
No,
happy to hear.
absolutely. I just wanted to add here on the part that says how have the requirements of publications changed post Chat GPT. I'm not seeing substantial changes yet, but what I have seen when submitting work to different outlets is that there is a disclaimer that says we do not accept publications that are entirely written by Chat GPT. And I assume I think this has been done by journalists is that they're fact checking more than they did before, just to try to cover that gap. And like I said, that's very important for you as a PR professional, or if you're starting in this profession to do, and is to fact check everything in a traditional research way. Because, yeah, AI, as we've seen many times, has not yet cracked the code on factual accuracy. So the other question, Steve, and I can elaborate a little bit more on this, is do you need to have relationships with journalists to get started? What if you don't have any? Well, that's totally fine. You need to start somewhere. We all started somewhere. So I feel like having tools like the one that we have at Intelligent Relations make it easier to start, because at least you'll know that the reporter that you're writing to, that you're sending an email to, is the reporting that is going to potentially cover your story, because you've already researched and you can see the beats they cover, what type of interviews they do, and everything is in the same place for you to review. So I think that's going to make it easier for relationship building if you are just starting. And again, the contacts are there. You just have to nurture the relationship with great content and great information. I don't know if there's anything else you'd
I
like
saw
to add.
one that I'd love to. No, I think that's great. One that I saw I'd like to respond to is the question like, will AI disintermediate PR firms? And I think that it's a fabulous question, and we can take that in a couple different ways. First of all, we believe deeply that PR professionals, PR strategists, communication strategists will always be a necessary part of the equation for many companies. We said in some of the do's and don'ts, don't try to automate PR. Don't try to have AI do your final versions of content. And there's a number of ways that AI should never replace or truly disintermediate a PR agency. We're talking about things like strategy, messaging, positioning, crisis communications. There's a number of processes that require deep human thought and expertise, and it would be a tremendous mistake to try to take that away. Where we see, I'll double down on that and say that we as a company have two different pillars that we operate on. We have the technology that we have built, and we have our PR pros. We have a team of people in-house who are helping our clients achieve PR success. We have a number of folks who have seen that they like the technology, but they say, this sounds like it takes effort and is hard, and we would love a professional to help us do this. And so we provide that in the form of managed service. And that is very much so going to be a needed process. And our team focuses on the strategy, the 6-month plans, the coordinating interviews with journalists. There's tons of heavy lifting that still has to be done by knowledgeable professionals. Where we do see what, I wouldn't say disintermediate, but I would say where we do have, where we do see AI is changing the process a little bit, is that technology in general is going towards transparency. And we believe that transparency is a feature of technology, and the ability for, I think there will be a greater demand to agencies to provide more transparency into the process. As more and more tools come out that empower brands to manage communications, et cetera, I think they will come to expect that from the agencies they work with as well. So any agency that was previously kind of hoarding their own relationships and not giving much transparency to clients may consider rethinking that approach, because we operate in a society and in a culture where information is available, transparent, and I think that that model of a kind of intermediation where they're just serving as like gatekeepers to the media, we do believe that that model probably does not hold up in the long run, but rather being the trusted advisors, the supporters, the strategists, which frankly is how most agencies these days operate.
I'll answer the one on tips on how you can make your story more interesting to a journalist. So there's a couple of things. Keep it short and sweet, consistent. if you can tie it to the media cycle, that would be best. Use AI to ideate if you don't have anything to tie to your media cycle, but always fact check. Research your reporter so that you're matching the story to the right reporter. That's very important. And like I said in one of my first slides, is sometimes you don't even need to create a story, but more so put your spokesperson in front of the reporter so that when they have a story, they have your contact handy and they'll know that they can reach out to you and that you will have valuable information for them on whatever story they're talking about. Those are my tips for that. Steve, recommendation on journalists. Keywords. How does Preston recommend journalists?
Yeah, sure. So couple different ways. The simple flow of I have pitch, here's journalists who are likely to write about this story. Um, the way we believe that the journalists who are most likely to write about your pitch are those who have written similar sorts of stories in the past, a consistent history of writing things that are relevant to your pitch. That's a pretty good litmus test for moving forward. So the way we do it is that we base it off of a history of coverage with prioritization towards recent coverage to see which are the journalists that are actively creating content and writing about things that are similar to what you're proposing. There gets to be complications because you don't want to pitch them, the most similar. I'm just getting a little into the weeds, but if you pitch them something and their coverage is exactly the same thing you've pitched, that's also not a good idea. So you have to have some intelligence there as well. You don't want to pitch them something that they've literally just written about. But past history matched to what you're recommending, by kind of mapping that out in using AI technology, you're able to get some pretty high level matches. That's how we do it. Plus filtering and a lot of human controls as well.
So there's one about AI hallucinations and in general, just factual inaccuracy. I think this is what this is referring to. Steve, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, so hallucinations is when the AI will present information that's not factually accurate. A couple months ago, there was a high-profile case of a lawyer who used AI to prepare his arguments in court, and unfortunately, the information he presented just the cases didn't exist. It was not true in any way. So this is, and some people are even saying that hallucinations are actually an inherent feature of artificial intelligence that will never go away, but by the way these things are constructed using statistical models. So I think it's first of all, it's important to know that this is a risk that exists, and especially in the communications industry, we want to be very careful that we are presenting information that is factually accurate, and that we'll always rely on humans to fact check and cite sources in the content you're creating. While our tool will help you to draft a pitch, you want to be the one to add facts, links, citations, that sort of thing. It can save time. It can't replace true and accurate research. Now that's part one. I'd say the good news is that there's a ton of effort being placed by big tech firms and small startups alike to address this issue. They're doing that in a number of different ways. Some of that includes having just massive teams of folks responding to and rating responses and flagging these types of things so that they can train their models more and more. We will see this continue to get better in the future, but at least right now where we're at, even though we've come a long way in the last couple of years, be aware that hallucinations are a possibility, and you want to make sure that you're fact checking your work carefully.
Great.
Let's see if there's any others here.
Yes. How can PR professionals and content creators upskill and reskill to stay relevant more than just knowing how to work with AI tools? Research and data analytics or something like that.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit, and then Caro, happy your thoughts too. I think the term that's in fashion these days is prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is a fancy way of how do you ask the robots the right questions to get the information you want. So as in life, if you ask better questions, you'll get better answers. The same thing is going to be true in interacting with any number of AI tools. The same way that Google search created an entire industry of search engine optimization. Here's a new thing. How do we optimize for that? Some people are saying that prompt engineering is going to be a whole new skill set that may even become entire career paths where you're just really good at, you're the AI whisperer in your company, or you're the consultant who's able to whisper to the AI to get the best results. That is really a skill that I would invest in. I would first just play with the tools as much as you can, but there's countless blogs and podcasts on things like that. The term to look for is prompt engineering. I'd start there. Caro, I'm not sure what you think.
I'm going to go back to the traditional ways. I just actually finished a master's degree in public relations and corporate communications. So if you want to reskill and upskill, I would also suggest higher education. Programs are now including AI and including tech tools as part of their curriculums, but you're also getting the fundamentals and the basics of PR that are still there regardless of the tech. So I find that it was very interesting to complement that with the work I do. So I definitely recommend traditional courses or online courses, if you may, that can help you grow in your PR skills.
Yeah, as we said, those skills that are interpersonal, human skills, strategy, etc. Those are the things that are going to become more valuable, not less valuable in the future. So investing in the fundamentals, strategy, relationship management, uh, that's also a very safe place to position yourself for the future.
How can AI help in hyper personalization in an authentic matter? Well, if you don't automate, it'll be authentic because you're checking the previous interactions you've had with the reporter and what the reporter has been writing about. So you go for it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of an example of bad AI personalization I got, but I don't know if anyone else here has gotten bad sales emails where the first line of the email is essentially, "Hey, I saw you studied at this school. I love Philadelphia. This is really cool. And also
Those
you have."
copy and paste of your LinkedIn profile. I've gotten a couple of
Yeah.
those too.
It's like they scraped something and they just put it through Chat GPT, and then they wrote something like, so when you say, I guess the first thing is when you say hyper personalization, I get nervous because hyper personalization like humans don't generally hyper personalize. That's not a feature of human communication. If I'm going to sound like a robot, like we generally be like, hey, like your coverage, this is really great. Your recent article is cool, that type of thing. But going into crazy levels of detail is a turn off and something that would reek of AI. So first of all, is personalization good? Hyper personalization is likely to set off some alarm bells. In terms of using AI tools to do that, a lot of this comes down to data flows. So what we have in intelligent relations is we have a feature that analyzes for personalization. It does draft a line of personalization that incorporates mention of recent articles that they wrote. So it'll analyze to see what is something that they wrote recently, and it'll make that available for you. You can hover over the journalist profile and say they recently wrote this and this and this. And so it's more of a case of here's the information you need to do good personalization rather than automating and hyper personalizing. That's a risk. You're going to get in trouble if you just truly AI auto personalize everything, because by definition, that's not personal, and relationships still happen on a personal level.
How do you know if a journalist will be interested in a story? Well, if you see what they've written in the past, you have a sense of what types of stories they write and their beats. And then also, if you build a relationship, a rapport with the reporter, you'll know the type of format or the format that the reporter usually follows. So you know if the reporter will like to interview your spokespeople, if the reporter likes to send a written Q&A, if the reporter likes just some written two-phrase commentary. So you won't know 100% until you reach out to the reporter, but you can do your due diligence and research the reporter, or if the relationship has been built, then, you'll know exactly what they want. Like, we work a lot with B2B companies, and a lot of them have funding announcements. We know exactly who and how to contact that reporter because we've worked with her in the past. So, yeah, that's my take.
I'd agree. All right. It's intelligent Our platform is called Intelligent Relations. How would you describe an intelligent relationship in 3 words? I'd say offer real value. I think from sitting on the side of the table that we're sitting in as people who are trying to offer value to journalists, I think that from my interpretation of what Caro said, being a source, being an information provider who can help them do their job, offering value is a really good way and a foundational way to build professional relationships. And I think that's what we're talking about here. Caro, I don't know if you have a different take.
Well, you didn't say the 3 words, so you didn't answer the question, Steve.
Offer real value. I said offer real value. Those
Value,
are
okay.
3.
I saw it more as like, I would say, yeah, I would
Great.
go with become an ally would be my 3 words. Become an
Yeah.
ally. Yeah.
Okay. I'd go with Caro's. That's better.
Okay, I think that's all we have in terms of questions. Am I seeing anything else? Oh, as the pitches are increasing tremendously in journalists' email box, is there any AI tool to sift and sort newsworthy press releases? Oh, wow, that's interesting.
There should be. It's not the focus of our company at the moment, but absolutely. I mean, let's flip it around. The same kind of tool that would be used to say, this is relevant. Here's what your company wants to talk about, and here's who's relevant for that. You could apply the flip side style of technology where it's an email plugin and it analyzes your emails and surfaces the ones that actually are the most relevant to you as a journalist based on what you're looking for. So the technology is all there. Someone's got to string it together, and hit me up if you want to talk about it. I'd love to consult on those ideas. Sounds like a
Can
fun
I
project.
can I add a free hack for that question? So I don't know if this
Yeah.
would be useful to reporters, but Gmail does have, or there's a plugin that's called Superhuman, and it helps you swift through your emails more easily and respond and like declutter your inbox. So that is powered by AI. So Superhuman, if you look for it in Google,
I've seen a couple members of our team use that. I gotta check it out.
including me, including
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Yep.
All right. I think that covers it for today. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Steve, for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thanks, team. Again, thanks to the folks on our end behind the scenes who helped get this started. If anyone wants to get a demo of the Intelligent Relations platform, or you're a company that is looking to accelerate your public relations, earn more media, amplify your brand, visit our website, intelligentrelations.com/booking, conveniently in a banner down here as well. We'd love to connect and see whether it's using the tool yourself or getting some serious assistance our side. We'd love to connect and see if we can help. Have a great day.
Bye.